These three IRs have taken my tone from maybe about here to all the way up here. Let me show you. So this down here, you see that? That is my Boss Waza tube amp expander. It's my favorite and probably most used piece of gear in this whole room. I use it pretty much on every single demo. I've had it for years. It's super, super solid. It takes a load from my amp heads, adds an IR or a speaker emulation, and then I can take that line out from the back of the tube amp expander into my audio interface and then record silently. I can record cranked valve amps silently in my room without annoying any neighbours. And I've dabbled in third-party IRs before. I've spent a little bit of money on them as well, but always ended up coming back to the stock Boss speaker emulations that are in here. Now, there is a difference between IRs and speaker emulations, but that's a whole different video. Recently though, Origin Effects, one of my favourite pedal companies, released a free pack of IRs to actually go along with their amp recreation pedals. So they've created a really complete pack or suite of IRs that I wanted to try out, and they made it free. So I wanted to give it a shot and see how they worked with amps rather than pedals. Everything Origin does is done to the absolute highest standard, and I also happen to know that they have a really interesting collection of vintage and rare amps and cabs. So they were always going to be good. So I'm going to let the tones speak for themselves mostly. First of all, we're going to go through my V40 Duchess, Fendery type thing, I guess, running into the Boss Waza tube amp expander, but we're actually going to use the stock 2x12 standard cab that I've used for years. And to be honest, I've always been happy with that sound. I actually think it's a Two-Rock 2x12 cab that Boss have captured. Don't quote me on that, I read that somewhere. And I've always been happy with it. I think I've got this set up to be, I think it's a mic blend of a dynamic and a ribbon mic. I think I've also got it set up with no room sound, but just with a little bit of spring reverb coming from the tube amp expander. Now I'm going to switch to Origin's Brown Deluxe 1x12 IR, and you'll hear the difference. So the Boss one, Origin. To my ears, that's just incomparable. It's just better. It's a more interesting tone. There's more sparkle. It sounds like it's brought the amp back to life. It's added a bit more of a Fendery tone to arguably an amp that is pretty bland sounding. So I'm actually just editing this video now, and I thought of something else that I should add in here, just to add a little more context to what IRs are exactly. So I thought I'd show you what the amp sounds like without an IR. So essentially this is the sound of the amp if it didn't have a speaker. Okay, so that's it's an unusable sound pretty much. And then if we add the Brown Deluxe IR on top of the amp, all of a sudden, it sounds like an amp again. I just thought I'd add that little bit in there just to make it all make a little more sense, maybe. The free IR pack from Origin is actually pretty comprehensive as well. There's a ton of different mic options, ton of different brightness levels as well to tailor it to your amp. I believe this Brown Deluxe 1x12 IR that I've chosen is like the standard mic blend that they've gone for, and the medium brightness. I do want to say as well at this point, this is not a paid for ad video. This is not an advertisement for these free Origin packs. I just discovered them, I really love them, and I wanted to share them with you. And then back to the Boss. I have the Origin Magnatone, so it's, I think this is going for their Magnatone 1x12 213 cab. Again, sounds epic. Again, another super characterful sound. I think that would actually work really well with a tweed style amp. I know it's meant to go with Origin's Magma 57 amp recreation pedal, but it sounds great with a real amp too. One more that I will actually show you. This is Origin's Fender Twin 2x12 cab, so maybe a little bit closer to the original Boss one than I've been using. It just goes to show how much difference a cab makes to your amp sound, the speaker sound. I think with that one I would actually, maybe I need to mess around a little bit more with the different brightness levels that Origin offer. Maybe I'd go for the brighter one of the Twin, but still great sound. Let's go back to the original brown face. I think this is the one that I'm going to stick with this amp. Okay, so I've plugged in the Victory Deputy, maybe a little more of a British Marshally type thing, so we're going to check out the 4x12s. This is the standard Boss 4x12 that I've used when I've used amps like this. Sounds like this. Honestly, never been too much a fan of that sound. It's just kind of always served the purpose of a 4x12 cab. Now, let's switch over to, which one are we going to go for? We're going to go for Origin's British 4x12, which is a vintage Marshall cab. Incomparable. Just back to the Boss one. And the Origin. You can actually hear some of the similarities, definitely a similar type of cab, but the Origin one just has this clarity and this just extra level of finesse that the Boss one doesn't have. There's one more 4x12 in the pack. This is Origin's Boutique 4x12, which I believe is a Bogner 4x12, so slightly more modern sounding. Completely different character again. I prefer the British, but maybe that would work with a more modern amplifier. I prefer the British one though. It sounds so much more real and in your face and punchy, just like a 4x12 would, I guess, in the room. One more thing I want to show you, and it does require another amp change. We're going to try the Vox cab. Okay, so this is the Victory Copper, an AC style amplifier, and if I'm honest, I've always struggled to match it up with a good IR. Every Vox IR that I've tried with it, even the Boss one, it always sounds a little weird, just not quite right. So much so that I've always just ended up with the standard 2x12 from earlier that I use with my Fendery type amplifiers. So it's not perfect, but it does the job. So I actually quite like that sound, but I think I think that it goes to show how much that the actual speaker and cab setup of a Vox AC30 contributes to that classic chimey Voxy sound. And I think if you're not using a proper IR that is of a Vox amp, you're missing out on a certain amount of that flavour, which luckily the Origin Effects IR pack comes with a model or a kind of capture of their, I think it's a 1964 Vox AC30, something like that, a really nice vintage AC30. And I think it sounds great and it brings a bit more of that Vox character to the sound. Okay, so this is the Origin Vox cab. It now sounds like a Vox amp. I could play that all day long. It's a much more specific sound. You know, that now is not going to work in every scenario, but if you want that classic Vox chimey punch, you've got to pair it with the right IR or right cab. And for me, that Origin one is the right cab. I think the AC30 type thing must just be something that is quite hard to nail down in an impulse response because it is much more specific. I'm really excited about these, so much so that I just wanted to show you. They've brought a new lease of life to every single one of my amps. And as someone who records silently using this sort of equipment, it's made them all feel and sound a little more real, a little more energetic, I think. And I think that's it. They've all brought a new energy, a new lease of life to these sounds. And that's why I'm so excited about it. I've been so used to hearing the Boss ones for so long, and they sound good. When you discover something new that just elevates everything to a new level, it's so exciting. If you are a user of IRs with your amp heads or whatever, give these a go. Why wouldn't you? They're free. I can't believe they're free, but they're free. Yeah, I'm super excited about them.